We do a lot of things in our daily lives that feel completely ordinary. Ordering food late at night, driving down a dark highway, or just relaxing alone in our own apartments. But sometimes the mundane things we take for granted can turn into a living nightmare in a matter of seconds. Tonight we're looking at 3 true horror stories submitted by viewers that actually happened. And after hearing them, you might think twice before leaving your doors unlocked. Story 1. The DoorDash Nightmare. Our first story comes from a guy named Ryan, who used to work as a DoorDash delivery driver in upstate New York to make some extra cash during college. This happened around October of last year. It was a Tuesday night, close to 1:45 a.m., and Ryan was about to log off when one last order popped up. The pay was unusually high for a short distance, so he decided to take it. The drop-off location was in a secluded, older neighborhood near the edge of town. As Ryan drove down the street, he noticed all the streetlights were out. The GPS led him to a creepy, older 2-story house sitting entirely by itself, surrounded by overgrown trees. The entire house was pitch black, except for a faint, bluish glow coming from one of the upstairs windows. Ryan parked his car, walked up the porch, and knocked on the heavy wooden door. No one answered. He waited for a minute, then decided to call the customer through the app. The phone rang 3 times before someone picked up, but on the other end there was no greeting, just the sound of heavy, slow breathing. Ryan cleared his throat and said, "Hey, this is your DoorDash driver. I'm standing on the porch with your food." A raspy, low male voice finally replied from the speaker, "The door is unlocked. Just step inside, leave the food on the kitchen table, and take the cash next to it." Ryan felt a pit in his stomach. Every instinct told him to leave, but he really wanted that cash tip. He pushed the door open. It creaked loudly. The inside of the house smelled like damp wood and something rotting. It was freezing cold. Using his phone's flashlight, he walked into the dark living room and spotted a wooden table. There was a crisp $20 bill sitting on it. He placed the food down and picked up the cash. But just as he did, he heard a sound from directly above him. Thud, thud, thud. The footsteps were moving toward the staircase. Ryan froze, aiming his flashlight at the top of the stairs. Standing right there was a tall man. He was wearing a filthy yellow raincoat, even though it wasn't raining inside. But the most terrifying part was his face. He had a wide, unblinking stare, a twisted smile, and in his right hand, he was holding a heavy, rusted framing hammer. Without saying a word, the man started walking down the stairs, staring dead into Ryan's eyes. Panic instantly took over. Ryan dropped his flashlight, bolted for the front door, and ran to his car as fast as his legs could carry him. He sped away, called the police, and reported the incident. When the cops investigated the property the next morning, they discovered the house had been abandoned for over 3 years. The phone used to place the order was later found ditched in a trash can 3 blocks away. Whoever that man was, and whatever he was planning to do with that hammer, Ryan never found out. Story 2. The Interstate Creature. Our next story takes place on a lonely stretch of Interstate 80. A viewer named Tyler and his 2 friends were driving back home from a road trip. It was around 3:15 a.m., and the highway was completely deserted. Tyler was behind the wheel, while his 2 buddies were fast asleep in the back and passenger seats. The night was incredibly foggy, making it hard to see more than a few yards ahead. Suddenly, Tyler's high beams caught something standing on the right shoulder of the highway. It was a woman. She was wearing a tattered white dress, standing perfectly still with one arm raised in the air, as if she was hitchhiking. Seeing a lone woman in the middle of nowhere at this hour was bizarre. Tyler's first thought was that she might be in danger, so he began to slow down. But as the car got closer, he noticed something deeply unsettling. Her head was tilted at a completely unnatural, broken angle, resting almost on her shoulder. Her face was completely covered by matted, dark hair. She wasn't moving a muscle. She looked like a mannequin. A wave of pure dread hit Tyler. Every red flag in his brain went off. Instead of stopping, he slammed on the gas pedal and sped right past her. The sudden acceleration woke his friends up, and Tyler frantically explained what he just saw. They tried to calm him down, suggesting it was probably a prank or some weird gang trying to get them to stop and rob them. But the nightmare wasn't over. Exactly 10 minutes later, up ahead in the fog, Tyler saw the exact same figure standing on the shoulder. Same white dress, same broken posture, same raised arm. There was no physical way a person could have outrun a car going 70 miles an hour. Terrified, Tyler pushed the car past 90. As they flew past the woman this time, the friend in the back seat looked out the rear window and let out a blood-curdling scream. The woman wasn't standing anymore. She had dropped down onto all fours, moving like a rabid animal, and was sprinting down the highway behind their car, keeping up with them for a horrifying 5 seconds before disappearing into the fog. Tyler kept his foot pinned to the floor until they finally reached a well-lit gas station 20 miles away. To this day, none of them have ever driven down that highway at night again. Story 3. The Unlocked Window. Our final story comes from a college student named Sarah, who lived alone in a ground-floor apartment near her campus in Ohio. The back bedroom window of her apartment faced a dark, narrow alleyway that barely got any light. One night, Sarah was up late studying for her finals. It was around 2:30 a.m., and the entire complex was dead quiet. She stood up to go to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. As she walked past her bedroom doorway, she heard a faint, distinct sound. She assumed it was just the wind pushing the window open, realizing she had forgotten to lock it earlier that day. She walked into her room, shut the window, and flipped the lock. But as she turned around to leave, she realized something. The air in the room felt different, and there was a faint smell of cheap cologne and sweat. Sarah's blood ran cold. She stood frozen in the middle of her dark room. She looked down at the floor, and that's when she saw it. A trail of wet, muddy footprints leading straight from the window to the underside of her bed. Before she could even scream, a pale, heavily tattooed hand reached out from under the bed, holding a long silver kitchen knife. A man's face slowly peeked out from under the frame, staring up at her with a sick, twisted grin. He whispered, "Don't make a sound." Sarah didn't think. She bolted out of her apartment, screaming at the top of her lungs, and ran straight into the courtyard. She managed to slam her front door shut and held it from the outside while dialing 911 on her phone. When the police arrived a few minutes later, they found the back window shattered. The intruder had escaped back into the alleyway, but on Sarah's pillow, the police found a folded piece of notebook paper. Written on it in messy handwriting were the words, "I've been watching you sleep for the past 3 nights. You should really lock your windows." Sarah broke her lease and moved out the very next morning. These stories serve as a chilling reminder that sometimes the real monsters aren't ghosts or demons. They are the people lurking in the shadows of our everyday lives. If you have a true horror story you'd like me to share, leave it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed these stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button.